Respectable Mr. Agung Nugroho as the in the English Radiologi 1, and respectable all of my friends. First of all, let's say Alhamdulillah to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for giving health and safety grace so that we can gather in the Zoom meeting room. The topic we will discuss about grit, APRON, and GONAD shield. I'm Ridho Senaduanda, who will be the moderator today. I will guide the course of this discussion. The members of my group are Dika, April, Ageng, Adel, Rizky, and Fikhi. Meanwhile, the series of events that we will 1. Opening session, 2. Delivery and presentation of material, 3. Question and answer, 4. Closing session. The next session was the process presenting material about grid, apron, and the gonad shield. And I invite Rizky to the deliver material about apron. It's time and place it.
Before I start the presentation, I will introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Rizky. So in this, I want to tell you about APRON. Okay, next slide. The first is history of APRON. 19 until 1998, which include 90,305 radiographers, of whom 70% were female. Descriptive term apron equates to the open solve or self-less pattern characteristic of garments intended to protect the torso. Okay, next. And then the second concept of apron. A lead apron of apron is a type of protective clothing that acts as a radiation shield. Okay, next. And the third is work principle. Work principle of apron is protection of the reproductive organs with a lead rubber apron is considered important. Aprons used for detailed imaging should include thyroid. Okay, next. And the application of apron, the correct thickness of lead equivalent or PBEQ will depend on how and how often the person is working in an exposed environment. The minimum requirement will 0.25 millimeter PBEQ when not behind lead shielding. Okay, next. So this is how aprons looks like. The first, a rubber coat lead apron protects organs from exposure to X-ray. And the second, thyroid gland protection. And the last one, X-ray of the hips with a testicle site. Okay, uh, this is enough from me. Time and place. I return it to moderator.
Thank you, Rizky, for material. And the next session was material about gonad shield. To Fikhi, place and time, it's yours.
Yes, thank the time, place to moderator. That before I explain you about GONAD, I will introduce my name. My name is Fikhi Alqorijal from 1A. So I will explain about GONAD. Next, the first is history of GONAD. GONAD originates around 1905 to prevent male sterility, but was discouraged after tests went down. In the mid-1950s, gonad shields were reintroduced Now, to reduce hereditary risk. The second is the consent. A procedure used to help keep a person fertile by preventing damage to reproductive organs during radiation therapy, and a protective shield is placed on the outside of the body. Next, the third is work principle of GONAD shield. GONAD shield used to help a person fertile by preventing damage to reproductive organs during radiation therapy. Next, the next is GONAD cells application. The gonads will lie in the primary X-ray field on within close proximity. The clinical objectives of the examination will not be compromised. The patient has a reasonable reproductive potential. Yeah. Yes, this is a example picture from gonad cell. Thanks for your attention. I give back to the moderator.
Thank you, Fikhi. And the last session presentation about a grid. I invite April to deliver material. Place and time, it's yours.
Okay, thank you, Ridho. My name is Aprilina. I will introduce you about grid. First, history of grid. In Berlin, in 1930, Gustav Backe demonstrated the first radiation grid consisting of lead strip. In the 1930s, these home grids were further improved by the Swedish scientist Dr. Siv Ledin. With more than 60 years experience of manufacturing and supplying the World Health Service and X-ray manufacturing grid, this home grid has established a well-known reputation for quality and reliability. Next, concept. The anti-surface grid plays an important role for enhancing image quality in projection radiography by transmitting a majority of primary image. Next, type, focus grid. A grid which the absorbing strips are slight angled toward the focus spot. Linear grid. The lead strips are parallel to each other in their longitudinal axis. Cross grid. A grid consisting of two superimposed parallel grids having the same focusing distance. Aperture grid. A grid which is designed to improve spectroscopy resolution in stationary detector CT scanner by reducing the intent-sensitive area of each detector element. Moving grid, a grid which is set into motion just before an X-ray exposure starts. Stationary grid, a grid used to improve schedule and the X-ray detector. Next, work principle. The X-ray grid allows a majority of the primary X-ray to be transmitted and a majority of the scattered X-ray to be absorbed, so the radiation exposure to the patient must be increased by a 2 until 3 factor. Grid application. Grid application for neck, chest, stomach, both chest and stomach, both of orthopedic, and chest. Next. So this is how X-ray grids looks like. Thank you for attention. I will give it back to the main person. Ridho.
Thank you, April, for giving us Matri. With the end of the presentation, I ask the moderator representing my friend to apologize if their mistake, whether intentional or unintentional. Let us close this presentation with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your attention.